Okay, maybe if I go back to a little bit nearer the beginning, how the things got started. I did not start with the Biomedical Engineering Society Singapore right from day one, because it started off more as an academic uh, kind of beginning with James and a couple of other people. But very soon, it attracted actually people from the industry. I remember especially one of the guys who currently owns a biomedical servicing company, but he has dropped out of the society. He was one of the founders. And there are also people, there's also one particular guy who was I think, probably the most well-known biomedical engineer in Singapore in the early days. We're talking about like the early 1990s, you know, and they were very much involved. But then because the society in the early years was pretty academic, so I think the industry and the people actually working in the hospital, they kind of lost interest in it. I remember the first few scientific meetings were very academic, very theoretical. I participated in one of them. I presented a paper too, but was very much on the academic side, not the practical side. So there was not a lot of emphasis on clinical engineering. And then I was one of the people tasked to set up this training program in a polytechnic in Singapore to train the engineers who will directly work in the hospital. Because at that time, one of my colleagues, he was very much in touch with the Economic Development Board in Singapore. And they saw this gap, you know, where you have this very theoretical people from the university, you see these engineers working in the hospital, and there was this big gap in between because the engineers were not trained actually to be biomedical engineers or clinical engineers. They were actually from all kinds of disciplines, mostly mechanical and electrical engineers who went to the hospital and they were managing and servicing the medical equipment. So there was this gap that we saw. We knew the market wasn't big, at least not in Singapore, but we decided to take up the challenge, set up this program to train. And we started with a cohort of like 40 students. Initially, we just offer like it's like a specialization in the diploma program. And there was a lot of interest in that. In fact, one of the students from the early batches, she's currently one of the biomedical managers, engineering department managers in one of the local hospitals. One of the very first female to be made a manager of a hospital BME department. And that's how we got started. We started as a specialization. And then around 1993 or so, we engaged Professor John Webster from Wisconsin. He came over and as a consultant, and we decided to drop this program, and we offered it as a 3-year training program. It's a bit like the BMETs in the US, a bit like that, but slightly higher level than that, I think. It's in between a technician training and an engineer's training, because we don't want to offer it as a degree program, only as a diploma program. So we started training people that way, and we found that they were very much sought after and accepted by the healthcare industry. So at this point, I can quite safely say that about 50% of the engineers working in the hospitals in Singapore, whether public or private, they were my former students before. And that's quite a bit, because if you're talking about large hospitals of 20 engineers, about 10 of them were my former students. And now we have many, many hospitals. You know, we started off with like a few major hospitals, now it's all over the island. So much so that there were 4 other actually educational institutions of diploma level. They came in and they started to offer this program, but along the way, 2 of them actually dropped out. These institutions actually dropped out because they found that they were not producing the graduates to meet the industry needs. Because my particular program that I run, I'm very specific about the fact that they are taught to service and to maintain medical equipment. That was the main emphasis. So if nothing else, they are very good with servicing infusion pumps, syringe pumps, electrosurgical units, electrical safety analyzers, all these basic functions they have to know. And then way back in I think it was like as far back as 2008, yeah, GE Healthcare in Singapore got very interested in what we're doing. And they came in and signed a memorandum of understanding with my institution. And we started collaborating and we provided training actually to Myanmar, to Vietnam. And we were supposed to get on to do Cambodia, Indonesia, but now everything is, all the plans are upset because of COVID situation. So that's how I first got involved in this area, and to today I still see the relevance of it. So over the past couple of years, my main push is to get a lot more recognition for these engineers. So I'm currently working with we have 3 healthcare clusters among the public hospitals in Singapore. So I'm working with 2 of them. And we are looking at a kind of traineeship. In fact, the biggest group, Sing Health Group, is now discussing with me regarding offering scholarships to the students, so that what they wanted to do is to take the graduates from my program and then hire them as assistant engineers, train them for a couple of years, and then get them to do a degree program sponsored by the healthcare group. So they are even looking at that because they really want to attract talent. And our discussion about traineeship actually even involved things like maybe we will spend like 3 days in the school with us and 2 days in the hospital for a normal semester week. So we're still working out details, but it looks like it's quite possible. In fact, I'm working on the new course curriculum, and even in my design of it, there is a lot of plans to work in such a way that part of the practical work will actually be carried out in the hospital training area and not in my school, because we don't have the latest equipment. We can't keep upgrading our equipment. We don't have the funds to buy big expensive equipment, but the hospital have them. And they actually welcome us to go and work with them and use the equipment with the students. And I even explore with them the possibility of their staff co-teaching with us, because now with a lot of this online teaching, it gets easier. They don't even physically have to come to the institution. We can arrange the class, say in the late afternoon or evenings, and they can co-teach with us. We can work out a remuneration package that their staff also get paid for the education aspect of it. So I don't know whether it will work, but it's pretty exciting when I see it this way, because then we are actually really helping these engineers to really get the kind of training and the kind of recognition they want. Because part of the problem that I keep hearing from the engineers working in the hospital is that the career path is quite stagnant. They get to be a senior engineer, a principal engineer, and then so what? They can't all be managers.